living longer, living healthier, living better than ever before. Welcome to Mountain Pacific's Healthy Living for Life, a weekly series that gives you the information, education, and expert insight you need to become an active participant in today's ever-changing healthcare climate. Here now is today's program host.
More and more aging parents are moving in with their adult children. The reasons are many. It could be the death of a partner, financial difficulties, or perhaps failing health. It's a lot to consider because it's a big change. Welcome to Healthy Living for Life, a show dedicated to helping you do just that. I'm your host, Colleen Roylance. What do you need to consider before you move in with family? Well, we're going to find out. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Healthy Living for Life. Joining us today is Nancy Anderson. She's the Outreach Director for AARP Montana. Nancy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's talk about aging parents moving in with their adult children. Let's start with how common is this? How often is it happening?
Well, consolidating households like this is on the rise. With the cost of living so high, a multi-generational home can really be a financial benefit to everyone involved. And this may be the only option that's affordable for some families since Medicare doesn't cover assisted living or nursing homes. When money gets tight, the options sometimes become limited. Also, many families are opting for this as a safety issue given all the COVID issues that nursing homes experienced during the pandemic. So many families are now deciding to keep loved ones at home if they can, instead of considering a congregate setting.
That makes good sense, especially as you bring up COVID, absolutely. So what are some of the more common reasons that parents move in with their adult children?
Well, that's a great question because there are many reasons besides health. It's not always the elders that might need the help. Elders can assist a busy family with childcare and household chores. If both parents work, it can be a benefit for youngsters to have daily positive interactions with their grandparents. An on-site grandparent can be a blessing for after-school care or help when a member of the family has health challenges. On the flip side, even many healthy grandparents struggle with the expense and difficulty of living alone. It can be challenging to maintain a home as we age. And let's not forget the loneliness that a parent may experience after losing a spouse. Elders in this situation can become isolated, and that can cause health issues. Continued isolation is the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. I think that's astounding. So living alone could really change the aging outcomes for someone who's disconnected and isolated. Additionally, as a society, we're outliving our ability to drive by 8 to 10 years. And in many rural communities, there's no public transportation available. Needing to hang up those keys is another key reason a parent might look at moving in with their adult children.
That is a lot to consider. The mobility, making sure that they can get around, the aging parent can get around, making sure they have health issues taken care of. This is a lot to think about. So as an adult child, what are some of those questions that you should be asking yourself?
Well, before you get started, there's lots of things to think about. What's your relationship with your parent? Is it a healthy one or is it a little problematic? Is your entire family on board? You need to think about your physical home. Is your home senior friendly? Where will your parents sleep? And can you provide an area for them to relax and watch TV and have some alone time? What about money? Will consolidating households be a burden to the family or the parents' finances, or will it be a blessing? Think about how much care your parent will actually need, both now and in the near future. It can be kind of upsetting for elders to move and adjust to a new setting. So you need to make sure that you can really provide the level of care that they'll need now and into the foreseeable future. One last thing to think about is pets. Does your parent have a pet, and is that okay? Or what about your family pets? Are they compatible with a new housemate? Lots of things to think about.
So many things to think about. And, as you went through that laundry list of considerations, in your opinion, what is the most important thing that a family should do before they really commit to making this move?
Well, This is a move that is going to impact a lot of people's lives, and so it needs some real consideration. I have a few tips that I would suggest. The very first thing is to develop a roadmap. We do what we must do when a crisis hits, but if you have time to consider this, if you've got that gift of time, have lots of conversations with everyone involved. Be sure to talk to your young children about the benefits of having the grandparents live with you. Also talk to your siblings. Will they be able to help you out if the parent needs care, or will the full burden fall entirely to you? Can they help occasionally with respite? Another thing to consider is be clear about how finances will be managed. Who pays for what? Will the parent pay for utilities? Will they pay rent? Can they pay their bills on their own, or will you need to help? Develop a fair plan where financial expectations are clearly identified, honestly upfront. Nobody likes to be caught off guard, especially with money. And this is something that I didn't think of right away. Establish house rules. How will the household function? Identify and discuss how meals will be handled, what can be redecorated, house quiet times even, and can house guests be accommodated? You'd be surprised how many conflicts I've heard arising out of some of these issues not being clarified. One other thing is to try to limit stressful changes in your life during the adjustment period. This is a big change, so give careful consideration if you're contemplating a career change or starting a new business. You may not want to take on consolidating households at the same time you're scheduled for knee surgery or doing a major home construction program. Sometimes it's not possible to prevent other big changes, but if you can limit the stress, I think it'll be an easier transition. And have a backup plan. You know, it's really important to do that in the beginning. It makes it easier down the road if the situation needs to change. You know, elders' health and their care requirements can change quickly with the blink of an eye sometimes. And maybe they're going to need more care than the family can provide, or maybe they need increased supervision to keep them safe if they have dementia or Alzheimer's. We don't want them wandering. Backup plans don't always mean moving your parents into a completely different place, though. The plan may simply include bringing in home health aides or having your parent go to a day program during the day while you work. So there are lots of options, lots of things to consider.
Yeah, I really like your idea of having a roadmap and having a backup plan. I think that's really important. Thank you, Nancy. You know, we need to take just a quick break. But when we come back, we're going to continue talking with Nancy, and we're going to talk a little bit about how it is from the adult child's perspective, and some of the things they need to consider when they're moving an aging parent into their home. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Living for Life. Nancy Anderson with AARP Montana is still with us. Nancy, thank you so much for being here. Let's talk a little bit about preparing a home for an aging parent to move in. An adult child, I'm sure there's just a laundry list of things they need to consider.
Well, you know, Colleen, it's really interesting because these are things we need to consider whether we're having an aging parent move in or not. We're getting older as a society, and even if there isn't a mobility challenged person living in our home, small adjustments can help your home to be safe and more comfortable for residents and visitors. AARP has a great free publication called Home Fit that identifies options to consider. Things like 2 handrails on your stairs, grab bars and an appropriate height toilet in the bathrooms, hallway lighting, levered door handles instead of knobs, removing throw rugs and other tripping hazards. You need comfortable and accessible seating in the living and dining areas. Watch out for those rolling chairs. They can be dangerous for mobility challenged people. And some suggestions require a contractor, but others are simple fixes. And that publication is called Home Fit. It's available online or from our office.
That sounds like a great publication, really helpful. You know, before the conversations start happening about, moving in, there's that first conversation that happens, and that is, are they ready? Is it is it time for more care or different care than what the parent has been receiving? How do you know when it's the right time?
Well, first of all, you're going to want to make sure and consult with your parent's physician. I think that's a really good starting place. And then just observe, how is your parent doing with daily activities of living? Can they get in and out of bed and the shower safely? If you need to lift them on a regular basis, you may need to look at another living arrangement or bring in assistance. Will your parent get enough socialization in your household? Although certainly more social than living alone, if the family's on the go and out of the house a lot, it could be a lonely time for a parent. A senior day program could provide some activities and give the parent a chance to interact with peers. And that's important to all of us. Medication management can also be a major issue to consider. If your parent has lots of prescriptions required at specific times of the day, that could be tough to handle at home, especially if you work. So that may be another indicator that a higher level of care is needed. And it's always important to evaluate your own mental and physical health on a regular basis, as well as the time you have available to provide care.
Yeah, any suggestions, Nancy, on how the adult child can make sure they are taking care of their own needs during this time?
Well, we sure are the sandwich generation these days, aren't we? Caring for aging parents while raising our own kids, keeping a marriage healthy, and oftentimes managing full or part-time work. It can be a real juggling act. But I can't emphasize enough how important it is for caregivers to take care of themselves. You need to build a team of family and friends that you can count on to help. AARP has another really great free guide called Prepare to Care that leads you through the steps of building a team and developing a care plan. One suggestion is to identify those tasks that you don't enjoy or aren't good with. For instance, if you don't like finances and paying bills, maybe ask your brother if he could handle that part of mom's care. Or if your sister or aunt lives out of town or in another state, maybe one of them could call her every morning and just chat and check in. So share that burden of care. That's important. And make time for the things you like to do. Go to a salon, see a movie, take a weekend off. Self-care is extremely important for caregivers.
You know, it is, and you mentioned a little bit earlier about isolation for the older parent. And a lot of times when folks get isolated, depression sets in. What are some of the signs that we need to watch for?
Well, I've learned that depression in an elder doesn't always look like you might think it would look. It might be persistent, sad, anxious, or an empty mood. It could be feelings of guilt, lack of self-worth, helplessness, maybe even irritability, or trouble sitting still and concentrating. The loss of interest in activities they once enjoyed, decreased energy or fatigue, moving or talking slowly, more slowly than normal, difficulty concentrating, remembering, making decisions, difficulty sleeping or waking up too early in the morning or oversleeping. And you got to watch those eating habits. Changes in those eating habits with unplanned weight gain or loss can be a big indicator. And of course, thoughts of death or suicide attempts or discussion is troubling.
Yeah, and so if we do see any of those signs or symptoms, what are the best steps to take?
Well, gosh, as I said, building rapport with your loved one's physician is critical throughout this entire journey. Depression is a medical condition that requires treatment from a doctor. So don't delay contacting that medical professional. It's really important.
Yeah, and you talked earlier about a roadmap and some of the house rules, and I really liked that because when an older parent moves into their child's home, they're more than a guest. So how do you keep them safe, your parent, while preserving their dignity?
Well, that's a key issue. And the most difficult part about your parents getting older for you and for them is their loss of independence. Think about how it feels when you're sick or injured and have to depend on others. I think I was mentioning earlier to you, I just had my hip replaced. And there was a while where I had to totally depend on my husband, and that was a little bit uncomfortable. But I knew that was short-lived. There was a light at the end of that tunnel. That's not always true with the aging process. So try framing care decisions in a way that avoids telling your parent what to do and instead lets you both make decisions together. This lets the parent feel that they're maintaining some independence and that they have a voice in their choice of care. That's important. But it's also likely that your parent's health issues will become more serious and have longer recovery times as time goes on. So it's important to be patient and understanding at those times. Caring for an aging parent isn't just about their physical needs, although that's important, but it's also about catering to emotional and social wellness as well.
I appreciate that, Nancy. And you know, we've talked a lot about the challenges of this situation, but there are positives as well. And so we need to take just a quick break, but when we come back, let's talk about the positives. And then let's also talk about how this looks from the parents' side of things. Don't go away, stay with us. Welcome back. We're still talking with Nancy Anderson with Montana AARP. Nancy, you know, we did talk a lot about the challenges of an adult parent or a parent moving in with their adult child. There are positives, and you touched on them briefly earlier on, but can you elaborate a little bit on some of those positives that come from this?
Well, you know, a multi-generational home can be really rewarding and is quite common in many cultures. Adding an elder to the mix can be a great addition to a busy family, and it can fiscally benefit everyone during these crazy financial times. Spending that special time with your parents as they age can be a real gift. I would say treasure it.
Yeah, that's great. Absolutely. And so let's switch gears. You know, we've been talking about you know, what the adult child needs to do to prepare their home, prepare their families, and develop that roadmap. When you think about it from the parent side, you know, you mentioned that the death of a partner might be something that triggers this need to look at the situation. And I've also heard, though, that after a major event like that, you should wait 1 year before you make any real life-altering decisions. How does that advice fit into this situation?
Well, you know, I've heard that too. And I think that it's important to realize that every circumstance is different. You don't want to jump into any huge changes immediately, but I think that the appropriate time will differ as much as a family dynamic and a person's situation can. So I wouldn't say that's a hard, fast rule.
Oh, that's great to know. And that really goes back to something else that you mentioned earlier, and that is bringing in all the family members and collaborating and really trying to figure out what solution is best. And any further ideas on how you can make that happen?
Well, you know, I think it's important to really consider a broad variety of options, and they can be as varied as the family dynamics are. So maybe the first step is getting your parent closer to the rest of the family if they're living in a place that's more isolated from the group. For instance, after my dad died, my mom was really struggling in her home, but she was still able to be independent. But the house across the street from me came up for sale. And so we moved her across the street. And she was able to keep her independence, but she was close enough that we could see her every day. We could help her with chores that she had trouble with. And my daughter was able to spend a lot of really great time at grandma's house. And she was a great solution and a blessing for us for childcare. Some families develop a rotation system where mom lives with each sibling for several months at a time. I've spoken to people where their teenage grandkids spend a couple nights a week at grandma's house, and that can be a great option for everyone. It fills the socialization needs and also provides help with some chores and can really enhance those grandparent relationships. And don't forget the option for assisted living. You know, it might not be the rule for everyone that it will work to have your parent move in or that the parents want to move in. And I must say that my mother really enjoyed when she was ready for assisted living. She enjoyed that lifestyle. She interacted with friends her own age. She had group meals, but still had a microwave in her apartment for snacks. There were lots of things to do, and that was really a good choice for her at the time.
Yeah, that is a nice transition to be able to make. When you think about moving a parent into an adult child's home, how can you create a sense of privacy for that parent? They may need some time away from the family.
I agree 100%. And I think it's important to provide that parent flexibility in making their own space their own. So maybe even letting them have their own bedroom furniture and having the option to decorate their space. And I think it's very important to offer a space where they can watch television, be alone, do puzzles. I think that would really be a plus. Some homes might not be able to accommodate that, but if you can squeeze out another bedroom or a separate place, a family room that can be grandma or grandpa's, I think that would be a big plus.
Yeah, and you mentioned, helping out with chores and helping out with the kids and how that can be a real positive. How can you keep it from flipping into a negative and perhaps mom or dad now feels like they are a live-in babysitter?
Well, that's one of those things you have to clear up front. That comes right along with having that discussion and setting the roadmap, setting expectations.
Yeah, I do like that roadmap idea. I think that really does help lay everything out for everyone, and it does give the flexibility and that backup plan as well. You mentioned your mom going into assisted living and that she was able to be active and hang out with her friends and other people. If a parent is living with their adult child, how do they stay active? How do they stay engaged with perhaps friends?
I think that they really need to establish a routine. Get out and take a walk in the neighborhood if possible. And I know that my family often does things together, but we also have our own separate routines, and I think that's important in this case. It's important to stay active and connect to the outside world. There are lots of great activities offered by senior centers, including group lunches, line dancing, card games, and many of them provide a bus for transportation. Interacting with someone your own age on a regular basis is very important. And also volunteering can be rewarding if the parent's health is good enough. So check out local nonprofits. So many of them depend on volunteers. There's food bank, churches, veterans activities. Also schools love to have older adults come in and read to the kids. AARP does offer a lot of virtual opportunities through what we call our virtual community center. So online at aarp.org/VCC, you have lots of opportunities for movies and cooking classes, trivia games, concerts, and much more. So that's another option available to you at home.
That's a fabulous option, the virtual option. That's great.
Yeah, and they're all free.
Oh, wonderful. Nancy, thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed talking with you, and I think the publications you've mentioned will be really helpful for folks as well. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you for watching, and we hope you'll join us again next week. Until then, stay fit, stay well, and stay healthy for life with Healthy Living for Life.
Healthy Living for Life is brought to you by Mountain Pacific Quality Health in partnership with AARP Montana. We'd love to hear from you. If you have suggestions for future programs, visit our website at mpqhf.org or call us at 406-443-4020. You can also catch us on YouTube by visiting our website and clicking on the Healthy Living for Life logo. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions.